The front door swung open just as I stepped inside. Still in my crisp army dress uniform, my 1-year-old daughter Emma balanced on my hip. The weight of the long drive from Fort Liberty sat heavy in my shoulders, but my heart felt light. I had been counting down the days to this moment, finally home, finally able to wrap my arms around my little family again. The living room was packed with people. Daniel's whole family sat there, shoulder to shoulder, staring at me like I was a stranger who had broken into their house. Daniel stood by the coffee table, his face tight. Without a word, he slapped a piece of paper down. "Cold as ice," he said, voice flat. "She's not mine." His mother, Patricia, pointed straight at the door and screamed, "Get out of my house!" The words hit me like a slap. Emma clutched my collar, her big eyes wide with confusion. I couldn't even speak. My legs felt frozen to the floor. But before I could find my voice, the front door opened again behind me. A deep, calm voice cut through the tension. "Captain Morgan." Every head in the room turned. Lieutenant General Robert Hayes stepped inside, his 3-star uniform filling the space with quiet authority. The room went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. General Hayes wasn't the type to shout. He didn't need to. His presence alone changed everything. "Let me take you back a few hours so you understand how we got here." That morning, I had been wrapping up paperwork at Fort Liberty in North Carolina. Months of training and admin duties had left me bone-tired, the kind of tired that sinks into your muscles and stays there. But I was smiling the whole way because I was heading home to my baby girl and my husband. Emma had been at the base daycare, and the second I picked her up, she reached for me with both chubby arms, calling, "Mama! Mama!" in that sweet voice that melted every bit of exhaustion away. I strapped her into the car seat, adjusted her little white bow, cracked the windows, and drove toward Raleigh with my favorite songs playing low. The North Carolina countryside rolled by, and for the first time in months, I let myself daydream about normal life. Family dinners, park walks, lazy weekends. Daniel had texted earlier, "Don't be late. Mom has a surprise for you." I thought maybe things were turning around. Our calls had been short and cold lately, but perhaps this was his way of trying. Maybe Patricia had finally decided to stop treating my service like a burden. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked warm and inviting. Lights glowed in every window. Cars filled the curb. Daniel's truck, his sister's SUV, his uncle's old Cadillac. I laughed softly to Emma. "Looks like Grandma went all out, baby girl." I carried her up the steps, heart full, and pushed open the front door. The warmth vanished instantly. No one greeted me, no smiles, no welcome home. Just cold stares from every direction. Daniel stood rigid near the coffee table. Patricia stood right beside him like a judge waiting to deliver a sentence. The air felt thick, heavy with judgment. I looked around the crowded room and asked, "What's going on here?" That's when Daniel threw the DNA test results on the table. The words that followed shattered everything I thought I knew about my marriage. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Emma squirmed against me, sensing the shift. Patricia stepped forward, her face hard as stone. "We know what you did. You humiliated this family." She jabbed her finger toward the door again. "Get out!" My mind raced. This couldn't be real. After everything, 9 years of marriage, deployments, moves, building a life together, this is how it ends? In front of all these people? I wanted to scream, to explain, to demand answers, but the shock had stolen my words. Then General Hayes walked in. He took in the scene slowly, me in uniform with my daughter, the hostile faces, the paper on the table, Emma starting to whimper. His expression stayed steady, but I saw the frown deepen. "I seem to have interrupted something," he said calmly. Daniel tried to brush it off. "This is a family matter, General." Patricia jumped in too, calling it unpleasant business. General Hayes didn't raise his voice. He simply asked to see the report. Daniel handed it over reluctantly. The general adjusted his glasses and studied it carefully while the whole room held its breath. Emma had gone quiet too, as if even she understood something important was happening. After a long minute, he lowered the paper. "Who ordered this test?" he asked. Daniel admitted he had. The general continued asking simple, direct questions: where it was done, whether I had been present, if there was a court order, proper chain of custody. With every answer, Daniel grew more uncomfortable. Patricia crossed her arms and insisted it proved I had cheated. But General Hayes shook his head. "No, ma'am. This proves someone printed a piece of paper. That's all." His words landed like stones in still water. He turned to me. "Captain Morgan, did you ever consent to this test?" "No, sir." "Were you informed?" "No, sir." He nodded, then addressed the room. "Accusing someone without real evidence destroys families," he said. He spoke about the importance of accredited labs and proper process. The confidence on Daniel's and Patricia's faces started to crack. Relatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. For the first time since I walked in, some of them looked unsure. General Hayes stepped closer to me. "Captain Morgan, I believe you and your daughter should leave here tonight." He looked straight at Daniel. "And I strongly suggest no more accusations until the truth is properly established." As I turned toward the door with Emma in my arms, I felt something shift inside me. I wasn't leaving in shame. I was leaving with dignity, supported by someone who believed in evidence over drama. The general walked me all the way to my car. The evening air felt cool against my hot face. My hands shook so badly I could barely buckle Emma's car seat. He waited patiently, then spoke softly. "Take a deep breath, Captain." The tears finally came. I told him I didn't understand how they could do this. He handed me a clean handkerchief and shared some of his own wisdom from decades in the Army. How rushing to judgment ruins lives, but truth and patience can save them. "I never cheated on my husband," I whispered. He looked me in the eyes. "I believe you." Those 3 words meant more than I can explain. He gave me the names of good attorneys, one military, one civilian, and made sure I had a safe place to stay with my friend Rachel, another officer. Before he left, he reminded me not to waste energy arguing with people who had already made up their minds. Confront them with undeniable facts instead. I drove to Rachel's house in a fog. She opened the door, took one look at me, and pulled us both into a hug without asking questions. "Guest room's ready," she said simply. Later that night, while Emma slept, my phone exploded with calls and messages from Daniel. Angry at first, then demanding. They were already rewriting the story, claiming I had stormed out on my own. I sat at Rachel's kitchen table, staring at the screen, realizing this wasn't just a misunderstanding. Something much darker was happening. But I didn't know yet how deep the betrayal went. I sat at Rachel's kitchen table that night, the house quiet, except for the soft hum of the fridge and Emma breathing peacefully in the next room. My phone kept lighting up. 23 missed calls from Daniel, 7 voicemails, and dozens of texts that started angry and turned demanding. One message stood out. "Mom says you left too quickly to explain yourself." My stomach twisted. They were already spinning the story, pretending I had walked out voluntarily when Patricia had screamed at me to leave. Rachel poured me a strong cup of coffee and sat across from me. "They're changing the narrative already," I told her. She nodded. "Then don't give them more chances to twist things." The next morning I went back to the house while Daniel was supposed to be at work. I only wanted Emma's clothes, diapers, and a few of our personal things. The place felt eerily quiet, almost like it was holding its breath. Patricia wasn't there either. I moved quickly upstairs, packing a small suitcase, trying not to let memories overwhelm me. That's when I noticed Daniel's laptop sitting open on the desk. The screen had gone dark, but it hadn't locked yet. I wasn't planning to snoop, but a notification popped up that stopped me cold. "Vanessa, everything went like we planned. She'll never recover from this." My heart slammed against my ribs. I didn't recognize the name Vanessa. With shaking hands, I clicked into the message thread. What I read next turned my whole world upside down. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment mistake. It was a carefully planned trap set weeks before I even came home from Fort Liberty. The messages laid it all out. Daniel and this woman had planned the fake DNA test, the family gathering, the public humiliation, every single detail. "Did everyone believe the report?" he asked her. Every single one of them, she replied. Another message confirmed Patricia had thrown me out exactly as rehearsed. They even talked about how selling the house would be easier once I was gone. My hands trembled as I photographed every single message with my phone. Dozens of texts showed how they expected me to just accept it and crawl back to the army without fighting. I kept digging. A folder labeled taxes caught my eye. Inside were bank statements that made my blood run cold. Large transfers from our joint savings, $18,500 here, $12,000 there. Nearly $40,000 had quietly disappeared while I was away serving. I whispered to the empty room, "What have you done, Daniel?" A car door slammed outside. Patricia was pulling into the driveway early. I quickly emailed the photos to my private account, closed everything exactly as I found it, grabbed the diaper bag, and hurried downstairs. Patricia walked in just as I reached the hallway. Her face hardened instantly. "I thought I told you to stay away." I kept my voice steady. "I'm only here for Emma's things." She crossed her arms and sneered, but I looked her in the eye and said, "I didn't destroy this family." Then I lifted Emma into my arms and walked out without another word. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to defend myself. The truth was starting to feel like armor. I drove straight to the Attorney General Hayes had recommended, Melissa Carter. She listened carefully as I poured out the whole story, then studied every screenshot I showed her. Her eyebrows rose higher with each new detail. When I finished, she leaned back and said, "Captain Morgan, this isn't just a nasty fight. Your husband planned to defraud you." The words landed heavy. This had gone way beyond a fake DNA test. It was becoming something much bigger, and Daniel had no idea his own messages were now the strongest evidence against him. Melissa told me to stay calm and not confront him. Let him think his plan is working. That was hard. Every part of me wanted to drive over and demand answers, but I trusted her advice. Back at Rachel's, Emma was stacking colorful blocks on the rug, laughing like the world was still safe and simple. I picked her up and kissed her soft forehead. "You deserve so much better than this, baby," I whispered. Rachel looked through the folder and shook her head. "Oh, Claire, it gets worse." The next morning, Melissa called with more news. The money hadn't been spent on random things. It had been moved to a secret account Daniel opened months earlier. Almost $42,000 bit by bit, so it wouldn't raise flags. That was our emergency fund, Emma's future, the down payment we had dreamed about. She also found a consultation with a divorce attorney that happened weeks before I returned home. And the DNA lab on that report? Not properly accredited. It would hold almost no weight in court. I felt numb. Daniel hadn't just believed a lie. He had built the lie himself. That afternoon, General Hayes called to check on us. His calm voice reminded me to stay focused. He wanted you to react emotionally. Don't give him that victory. His words helped me breathe easier. I looked out at Rachel playing with Emma in the backyard and felt something new, clarity and determination instead of brokenness. A few days later, we went for the official court-ordered DNA test. Daniel showed up late, barely looking at me. Patricia came too, still carrying herself like she owned the room. Melissa whispered for me to stay calm, no matter what. The technician swabbed Emma's cheek gently, then Daniel's, then mine. Everything was documented properly, sealed, signed, witnessed. Real evidence this time. In the parking lot, Daniel smirked. "You really think this changes anything?" I looked him straight in the eyes. "I think the truth already has." I didn't argue further. Melissa had taught me that every unnecessary fight just gave him more chances to twist words. 3 days later, the results came in. Melissa placed the sealed envelope on her desk and asked if I was ready. When she read the words, 99.9999% probability of paternity, the tears came fast. Not because I had ever doubted Emma, but because the truth was now official, written in black and white that no one could argue with. Daniel's response? A short text claiming the lab must have made a mistake. He still refused to accept it. Family members started reaching out after hearing about the real results. Daniel's sister Emily called first, voice cracking as she apologized for sitting silent that night. Others followed, his aunt, cousin, uncle. Each one said the same thing. We should have asked questions, we shouldn't have judged so quickly. I accepted their words, but the image of that night, Emma clinging to my uniform while everyone stared, would stay with me forever. Then came more discovery from Melissa. Bank records showed the secret account and transfers to someone named Vanessa Collins, thousands of dollars at a time. Phone records revealed hundreds of late-night calls, hotel stays, restaurant charges Daniel had lied about being work trips. New text messages from Vanessa showed Daniel bragging that once the divorce was final, everything would be theirs, and that I would never figure out the DNA report was fake. It was all there in writing, a full confession. Later that day, my phone rang. The caller ID said Vanessa Collins. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Her voice sounded tired and shaky. "Claire, I know you probably hate me." She told me Daniel had lied to her too, claiming we were already separated and only staying together for military benefits. When she learned the truth, she ended things and turned over everything to my attorney. "Emma deserves better than the lies we helped create," she said before hanging up. I sat in Rachel's backyard, watching Emma chase butterflies, her laughter floating on the warm air. In that moment, I realized this fight was never just about clearing my name. It was about protecting my daughter and making sure she grew up knowing truth matters more than anything. The divorce hearing came in the second week of September. Nearly 4 months had passed since that awful night when Daniel and his family tried to throw us out. I walked into the Wake County Courthouse wearing a simple navy blue business suit instead of my uniform. Melissa had reminded me, "Today, you're not here as a soldier. You're here as a mother." Those words stayed with me as I carried Emma into the building. Rachel waited with her in the quiet seating area while Melissa and I stepped into the courtroom. Daniel was already there. He looked thinner, the cocky confidence from that night completely gone. Patricia sat behind him, eyes fixed on the floor, avoiding my gaze for the first time. When the judge entered, we all stood. Melissa presented our evidence calmly and clearly. The official DNA results, bank records showing the hidden account, the transfers to Vanessa, the text messages proving the whole confrontation had been planned long before I came home, and screenshots of Daniel bragging that the DNA report was fake. She never raised her voice. She didn't need to. The papers spoke louder than any argument could. Daniel's lawyer tried to claim it was all genuine concern, but the judge asked Daniel directly if he knew the original report wasn't from a proper lab. Daniel hesitated. "I wasn't sure." Melissa immediately handed over one of his own texts. "She'll never figure out the DNA report wasn't real." The courtroom fell completely silent. The judge reviewed everything carefully. Emma's records, my service schedule, statements from neighbors, Rachel, and even a strong character letter from General Hayes. The general couldn't be there in person, but his words carried weight. Captain Claire Morgan has shown honesty, integrity, and excellent judgment as both an officer and a parent. Hearing that nearly brought tears to my eyes. After almost 4 hours, the judge made his decision. I received primary physical custody of Emma. Daniel would have supervised visitation until he completed parenting classes and counseling. The hidden money had to be returned to our marital assets, and he was ordered to cover my legal fees related to the fake DNA claim. It wasn't about revenge, it was about protection. Outside the courtroom, Daniel approached me slowly. For a second, I thought he might finally say he was sorry. Instead, he asked quietly, "Do you really think you won?" I looked down at Emma sleeping peacefully in her stroller, then back at him. "This was never about winning. It was about protecting our daughter from the choices you made." I turned and walked away, feeling lighter than I had in months. Almost 6 months later, life had started to settle into a new rhythm. Emma was growing fast, turning into a little chatterbox who insisted on helping me make breakfast every morning, even if that meant blueberries rolling across the kitchen floor. I had returned to full duty at Fort Liberty and was promoted to major. General Hayes pinned the new rank on during a small ceremony with Rachel and Emma watching proudly. Afterward, he shook my hand and said, "I'm proud of the officer you've become, and even prouder of the mother." Those words meant everything to me. Daniel completed the required counseling. His visits with Emma slowly became more natural. Our conversations stayed short and focused only on her. The sharp anger between us faded, not because we forgot the past, but because Emma deserved parents who could put her first. Patricia kept her promise too. She showed up for short visits without pushing for more than I was ready to give. One afternoon, I found her and Emma on the living room floor wrapping a doll in the soft cream-colored blanket Patricia's mother had knitted years ago. Emma looked up with a big smile. "Grandma made baby cozy." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. I simply smiled back. It was enough. Not every relationship healed completely. Some scars remain. But those scars don't show weakness. They show what we survived. Looking back, the real victory wasn't the court ruling or getting the money back. It wasn't even hearing all the apologies. The greatest victory was choosing not to let bitterness take root. Bitterness would have stolen the peace that no lie could ever touch. Today, when people ask how I got through the hardest time of my life, I tell them the truth didn't fix everything overnight. It saved me one honest choice at a time. If my story touches you, I hope it reminds you of this. Never rush to judge someone based only on accusations. Give people the chance to be heard. The strongest response to cruelty isn't more cruelty. It's living with integrity when others expect you to fall apart. Protect the ones you love. Cherish your family. And never let anger become the legacy you leave behind. Emma is almost 2.5 now. Every day she fills our home with laughter and reminds me that children don't measure life by its darkest moments. They measure it by love. I still serve at Fort Liberty, balancing duty and motherhood one day at a time. Coming home finally feels safe again. The road wasn't easy, but it taught me that truth has a way of shining through when you refuse to give up on it. If you're going through something painful right now, please know you're not alone. Keep gathering facts. Lean on good people. Protect your peace. And remember, the strongest form of moving forward is choosing kindness and strength, even when it feels impossible. Thank you for listening to my story. Take care of yourselves and the people you love.